really required. I want to think about big picture issues. Is there anything pervasively wrong in the case, right? In this situation, there's a lot of control weaknesses, and that's really leading to our cash shortage in part, because either, well, the way I look at either professors are spending too much money on the art supplies, we have potential theft of cash because we don't have good controls over it, and we're not collecting the right amount of revenue from people, right? Like, we're getting the feeling why this business doesn't have the amount of money it should do, because if we look at how they operate, they just have things wrong everywhere. And this is, an overall sense. I can see how the case sort of links together. So, why do we do this? There's not enough time to do everything. And, I guess it's important to do all that. So this, I'm just planning, reading, all that stuff. It can take generally 30 minutes of time. It depends. Some of the smaller cases will take, somewhere down to 20 minutes. Some of the longer cases or in-depth ones can take up to 30 minutes. And don't be afraid if you're spending time with this, because you're getting the value. Like, if you think of what we've gone over this past 30 minutes, we've really got a good feeling of where we need to be in this case, and what we need to address. So, here's some ranking considerations. I think we sort of discussed that. That's and I just wanted to quickly do time allocation. So I just sort of said, well, I just assumed it took 30 minutes to read. That given on an 80-minute case, 15 minutes to write. Yeah, and I did that without a calculator and so on. So I just said 10, 15, 15, 10. And that's, that's partially arbitrary, but it's pretty balanced. I want to make sure I'm spending a good amount of time on my accounting issues. And I know accounting issues take, in general, a bit more time to address, just because you want to make sure you've read that you know what accounting is, you're getting it right. And it takes a bit more time to bring in all the case facts into your analysis, as opposed to something like, figuring out process improvements. Other stuff like quantitative analysis, when you're crunching numbers in Excel, it takes longer than you think it takes. And you want to give yourself a bit enough of time. You always want to be careful whenever you're crunching numbers, if this comes up in a case. Don't get too involved in numbers. It's very easy to spend, you can spend up to 40 minutes on some calculations. On the UV, I think I was on, say 2 years ago, in 2008 UV, they actually had they had a situation where they gave people the opportunity to do about a 20-year future cash flow in an 80-minute case. And they had outflows, year 13, year 17, whatever, and those were generally small. So what ended up happening was a bunch of people, we're talking about people who, got through, university, they graduated with their B average or higher, they got a job as an accountant firm, they're writing this exam, and they just got stuck in this quant, and they couldn't leave it, and they spent all this time trying to get this calculation perfect, and because of that, they missed some other, they just got completely screwed up on that question, they missed out some other areas, which in the end resulted in them failing the exam. So this is a test when we're looking at these cases. They like to pull you into it once, and they'll give you a lot of information. If you think about it, doing quantitative analysis really isn't that hard. We can all plug in numbers in the Excel spreadsheet and hit, add, or I guess it was all equal, whatever control equal to get the automatic sum going on. There's all that fun stuff that we can do. It's not that hard. Don't have every single dollar item in it. I mean, if you're dealing with a business in the millions of dollars, like $1,000, $2,000 is going to make a big difference in the calculation. You just want to get the big numbers in and have a good feeling of where things are going on that. So, writing a response. So, I'm just going to go over a few of the types of qualitative responses, as well as some of the quantitative. So, we'll have the area which I like to call operations improvement. We'll have risk opportunities, or we want to make it a bit more technical, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We'll have accounting issues. I'll have audit here just for reference purpose, and I'm going to cover it in this lecture. And then on the quantitative side, we have what I call fresh start, which is just us going and making the numbers from scratch versus a recast. A recast is they've given us some numbers, what they've given us is wrong, and we're going to change it. So instead of generally, cutting and pasting the entire exhibit into your Excel spreadsheet, usually if you have net income, you'll take net income per client, and then you'll add and deduct, you'll deduct all the wrong items and add in your adjustments, right? That's generally the way to do it. It's a bit more efficient. That's not in this case. The one we have in this case is a fresh chart. We have no quantitative information in front of us. And we just want to pull together, simple cash flow in terms of opening cash balance, revenues during the year, less costs, should equal our ending, cash balance. So, operations improvement, these typically fall into areas where we have either process weaknesses or control weaknesses. Users generally don't have expertise in this area. Like, a lot of people aren't good in controls. And that's one of the things if you ever go into public practice, you'll find, unless you're working for a big company, a lot of small owner-managed companies, people cut a lot of corners to get things to working properly. And that's, some of the areas they cut are not that important. Some of the areas are, in the case of this chair. And that's one of the areas that we can bring in value. We can say, this is what you should be doing. Because they don't know the basics here. And a lot of times the answer is simple, but the key concept is to explain to them what they're doing wrong, why they're doing it wrong, and how they fix it. And that's really the way you want to address this. What is the operational weakness? And you want to use case facts here to support it. Why is it a weakness? Because you can tell them they're doing something wrong, but if you don't explain to them why it's doing wrong, like how does it impact their business? If we go back to our previous example of the revenues, where we're not checking membership on a timely basis, we're potentially losing, $25 times $25, which is the difference of even 225 times the 40% times the number of classes we have or whatnot. But that could be a big number for the charity, right? You can say this is the dollar value of us doing this wrong, wrong. And then how would they fix it? You can't just tell them this is what you're doing wrong. You need to provide a bit more value and say how you. Okay, now you know what you're doing it wrong. Let me tell you what you need to do to fix it. So I've gone and done some examples here. I'm not going to go through all of them here, but for example, the first one was the password on the computer where we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So the password on the computer is on a sticky note, and that's actually wrong. It was on a piece of paper underneath the computer, but you can sort of ignore that. But there's a case fact, right? Which could allow unauthorized users to access the computer and theft of personal private data and credit card information. Why is it that issue? So you're getting the feeling that this is a bad thing. What they need to do? We should assign each user of the computer their own user account and password, with password requiring to be 6 characters long and contain both numbers and letters. The standard stuff whenever you want to go and sign up for a Yahoo or a Google or Gmail account, you need to have upper and lowercase numbers and all that fantastic stuff. Like, it's a simple fix, but this is something that they clearly didn't know because they would do it. So this is really a good, framework in terms of addressing having the what, the why, and how. We sometimes refer this to explain process and controls as saying weakness, implication, and recommendation. What the weakness is, what the implication of that weakness is, and recommendation. You can also think of it as what, why, how. I also have another one here on the paper for the art gallery of Ontario memberships, and we can go through that. Risk and opportunities. A lot of it is similar to it. We go back to the what, why, how. If we have a risk, what is a risk? Why is it a risk to the company? And how do we fix it? So for example, it doesn't apply to this specific case, but if we're dealing in a situation where we're operating in a highly competitive industry and we're having people entering into the industry, right? Okay, that's the risk is we're having new people, a McDonald's opening up across the street, and I'm a Burger King, whatnot, right? The danger is that our customers will go to McDonald's instead of our Burger King. The implication of that is we end up losing money because the money is going to them instead of us. Recommendation. This is where you get to be a bit more creative. How do you mitigate this risk? We could say maybe we need to put some sales on. We need to figure out what McDonald's pricing is and then charge less than they do. If we could do that. A lot of it, whatever technical, whatever knowledge you have, this is where you really want to bring it in terms of how to fix the issue. Because usually what the issues are generally common sense. For opportunities or strengths, you generally want to think of what is the benefit and why is the benefit, right? If we have a competitive advantage, you need to explain why it's a competitive advantage. You really don't need to explain how to capitalize anymore because we generally have it going for us and everything's fine and dandy. Writing accounting issues, and this is something I think we've all seen in our basic accounting course. You know,